Yo, what up? We're back. Today, we got splits to talk about. We actually do have some more content. Skyline busted into that top 4 position with the world 4th kill of Mythic Halondrus. They, of course, did get it on the first reset, so that means 4 guilds were able to kill it on the first reset. BDGG, I think, getting increasingly lower on their wipes on Halondrus progression. I think that they recently had like a 6 or a 7% wipe. So by the time that you see this, BDGG may have already killed the boss.
Method also in the hunt. They've been doing
Yeah.
splits and stuff. So yeah, and Aster also getting near that 10% mark. Didn't quite make it in the first reset over in China. Probably won't be pulling the boss again by the time we record next time because they'll be doing their splits on the first day of their second reset. But definitely a lot of great guilds to look out for here, and a lot more crab kills coming in over the next week.
Chief among them, though, we got Liquid to talk about. Yesterday, we talked about like how important splits are. Liquid was actually able to get through their Halondrus rekill relatively quickly, 4-shot it. We were very worried for them after how many times they struggled on Prototype Pantheon.
It wasn't that bad on Prototype Pantheon, but it was like it was like an hour.
Time.
Yeah,
they're wasting time. And then so Liquid was able to 4-shot Halondrus. Then they broke into more heroic splits after they finished their Mythic rekill. At the time of recording this, they haven't even pulled Mythic Anduin again. They're still just doing heroic splits.
Right.
Which, honestly, I mean, we're going to talk
Makes sense to me, yeah.
We're going to talk about the difference between Echo and Liquid splits during the last segment. But Liquid doing splits after having done mostly splits all day yesterday and then still being kind of behind time-wise is not great for them, and it opens up opportunities for guilds like Skyline, like Pieces, like Echo to be able to potentially catch up.
Yeah, again, it's hard to know exactly what all the differences are in terms of how the splits, like why we see different amounts of time spent for different guilds, whether it's a case of one guild getting more gear, getting more characters geared, or just being slower, right? Being slower at executing the splits. I imagine it is some mix of all 3 of those things. One thing, though, that has led to Skyline having a higher item level than the competition has been this unique Mythic Plus strategy. Controversial strategy so apparently Skyline Raiders, the way they had this set up is they would set up these M Plus teams with helpers, 4 players that were helping and 1 Raider. And the way that they would do this is they would get that Raider and those 4 helpers. They would go start a keystone. The Raider would leave the group right at the start, go do it again, start like 10 keys, and then 30 minutes later, those 4-player groups would finish the keys, and any loot that would have gone to that Raider gets mailed to them. And so they sort of get to do like 10 keys all at once by just spam starting these keys with these 4-player groups that then actually complete the keystones. And that, we believe, is the reason why the Skyline item level in week 1 was too higher than the competition.
Well, I mean, we were looking at yeah, exactly, and that's
because originally our thought was like, oh, they just must not have gotten tier. They must just have high item level but no tier. But nope, they had tier as well. So it wasn't a case of like, oh, our tier sets are bad, but our item level is good. It was a case of
maybe it's split RNG,
right? And then that was what we were thinking for a bit. But apparently, it is in fact this Mythic Plus strategy. There is some debate about like, is this an exploit? Is this something that other guilds have asked about and been told they can't do? All of this is a little bit murky, but it is an interesting thing to discuss, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely optimal, and I've seen people do it before. Dr. J, I know, did it. Okay, not to call him out, but Dr. J, I know, has done it on his stream in the past, not with the ramifications of, like, he's going for race to world first gearing options, more just like a early patch, he's trying to farm a trinket kind of thing.
Right.
And it is completely different whenever Jay does it with like one group and versus like your whole guild is doing it to exploit the system. And for the record too, again, I probably shouldn't have used his name, but like he did this like years ago and didn't know that it was going to be a problem.
Well, I mean, is it a problem? Is this not allowed? You know, is this an exploit or is this just using the game mechanics
what do you think?
As they work?
What do you think?
I do. The one thing I think is that the rules should be applied consistently.
Okay.
So if, for instance, it's true that other guilds have been told they can't do this, then I think it's important that they either, I mean, maybe nothing needs to happen this time, but, you know, whichever guilds did use that this time need to be told, okay, actually, that one's not allowed. We need to make this clear. Or they need to go back to the guilds that they told they couldn't do this, and they're like, actually, we were wrong. You can do this if you want to. We are deciding it's going to be hard to enforce this, and we're just going to allow it. I don't know. Something does need to get decided such that this is a level playing field for that particular tool. Yeah.
I think at minimum, it's ethically not great.
I mean, I think if it's allowed, I don't see how you can have a huge problem with like helper splits being a way of gearing people, but helper M plus not being a way of gearing people.
Because it's not like, okay, so you're supposed to be doing Mythic Plus as like a key.
You're supposed to be doing raids as a group of people trying to get gear, not 9 people getting gold and 1 person getting gear.
Okay, you know what? Now that you say it like that, you're probably right.
I think that it's, I mean, like, yeah, maybe it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but I can't see drawing, like, an ethical line between this and helper splits.
It definitely seems a little bit more egregious in my mind, but I
don't see a problem with it being that different from the helper splits in terms of, like,
that's probably fair.
Some people are getting gold and some people are getting gear, and you're kind of, using the rules of the system to pay some people to increase the amount of gold you're getting.
At minimum, gray area as to whether or not it's, like, okay to do.
Yeah,
like Dratno said, I think the take of like it should be equally enforced amongst all guilds, whether or not they are allowed and not allowed, is probably the correct assumption that you're supposed to make. Like, there's no reason that you're.
Yeah, and it's tough when you're running a global competition like Race to World First, right? Everybody's speaking different language as well. The points of contact are different people for all the different guilds as well. Sometimes things like this, like just through no malice, different guilds get different info about what is and isn't allowed. Even we've seen this with like boss strategies, whether certain strategies will be allowed, will be fixed, will be considered exploiting. All of this it's just something that, communicating during a worldwide event like this is one of the challenges of it for Blizzard and for the guilds to figure out. So,
all right. Anyways, Skyline, impressive high level.
Yeah,
probably
regardless of this part, the week 1 kill is incredibly impressive for Skyline. So that is the World 4th CN first.
They
kill
earned
for
that.
them.
They earned that.
Yeah, if anybody's coming in like, oh, if I just had 1 more item level, I would have killed Mythic Halondrus too. Like, okay, dude.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
They earned that kill. Anyways, big kudos to them. Let's talk about Echo's split prison. So Echo got around 7-ish item levels over where they were last week whenever they were
They've gained a
Mythic.
lot of those item levels. That is certainly the truth, yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I think that the way that they did their splits in week 1 has set them up in a great way. They were clawing a lot of time back over Liquid, and at the same time, just had better item level across the whole entire raid.
Yeah, again, it's hard to be sure, because it's hard to just watch all of the splits and know exactly what's going on. But my read of things is that the splits have been more efficient from Echo than from Liquid.
By a considerable amount as well.
Now, that may just be like, I'm here at the Echo place. I'm hearing the Echo people talking about how smart and great they are, and like, okay, maybe I'm just hearing that, and I'm believing it. Right? I'm believing the copium.
Well, we also see the 2 item level gap.
That is true.
We saw it on Anduin.
And once we see Anduin getting pulled again, we will be able to look at the item levels of the 20 players that are in, and really be able to get a comparison there between the 2 guilds.
In addition to that, Liquid is doing splits again right now, where Echo only has Rygalon and Lords of Dread splits to do.
Heroic still, yeah.
Rygalon and Lords of Dread splits left to do, and it's
an interesting question as well. Like, what do you do about Rygalon, Lords of Dread, Heroic? How much can you get helpers in to guarantee trades on those? Not a lot of people have the ability to trade Heroic, Rygalon, Lords of Dread tier anyways.
How many people can you carry?
Not a lot of those people that do have those items are in a position to like help out instead of raiding with their own serious raiding guild, which is most of them. So
yeah,
that'll be an interesting question. The answer is over the course of the week as well. Like, maybe it goes up. Maybe there's more people that you can find for that kind of thing later in the week rather than at the start of the week. I'm not sure.
But like the vault. Okay, so the vault.
I guess it's mostly just people who've opened their vaults. Yeah.
The vault is interesting because they could get Heroic, Rygalon, and Lords of Jailer tier with, or Lords of Dread. Lords of
Jailer.
Lords of Dread tier without having killed those fights, just because of how tier works from the vault on this patch. But at the same time, like Dratno said, how many people are you realistically going to be able to find? Echo's reach is fairly large. Same with Liquid. Both of those guilds have insanely high reach, and they always go off with the strategy of like, help us, like
help us, help you, help us all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a EU world first thing, in a world first
right
thing.
Yeah, they get the region pride, and
exactly
they're able to just reach a larger audience than the BDGG method SK pieces, who are
that makes it really
still doing a really good job of getting the helpers that they need for things, but you can tell that it is harder. It takes longer to fill splits. Certain splits are not as feasible to run as they are for Liquid and Echo, and I do think that it is kind of indicative of like, it's just another way that the current system favors Liquid and Echo against those guilds that I think if you removed it, Liquid and Echo would still be in first and second
I agree.
in some order, but I think it doesn't help that the clout and organizational resources are so important with the current model, and I would like to see that not be a thing anymore, but as we always talk about, anytime we start complaining about the way Race to World First works, it's just, there's no way to avoid degeneracy in Race to World First. There's just no way around it. So
side note,
it's always one kind or another, right?
This Race to World First has been really, it's very exciting to watch, and I think
Yeah.
you and I are kind of preparing for like maybe even a third ID.
We're going to get so many. I mean, there's still so many bosses, right?
Yeah.
Like Liquid are 80 pulls into Anduin as of the time of recording this, and they still have yet to get it below 70%. If you just extrapolate that math outwards, right, we're looking at another 300 pull boss, right? That's how you're allowed to do it, right? That's how the math works on these. And then we've still got Rygalon, Lords of Dread, and the Jailer, which were hard bosses on Heroic. At least several of them were quite tough, so... Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very good chance that this thing goes into Reset 3, and we are going to have to continue to come up with topics for these videos every day, which is increasingly difficult.
Today's was a lot better than yesterday's, is what I will say.
None of them have been bad videos, but certainly once you were like, oh yeah, this Skyline M Plus thing, I was like, oh my goodness, we can talk about that for 5 minutes. We are good.
All right. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. I think we're going to have some more Anduin stuff to discuss. Hopefully some guilds are starting to get through like the first intermission. That second Kingsmorn phase has been causing a lot of issues. Maybe we'll be able to talk about like the kick ads and how guilds are dealing with those, because on Mythic, that mechanic is going to be really difficult. Phase 3 Anduin, at least it reads in the dungeon journal like it'll be difficult. Hopefully we're going to have some cool shit to talk about tomorrow. We will be back later. Goodbye, gamers.